Welcome to LabMinutes.com and our lab video series on Cisco ASA 1000V. You can find a complete list of ASA 1000V video on our website by clicking on the link above and sign up for our newsletters to receive the latest video updates. So far we have performed all of our ASA 1000V configuration from the VNMC web interface. If you happen to prefer configuring your ASA 1000V via CLI or ASDM, you need to make sure that the ASA is installed in ASDM mode right from the beginning. Because once it's installed in the VNMC mode, it cannot be converted to ASDM mode without deleting the VM and starting from scratch. Also keep in mind that you will not be able to centrally manage or share policies between the ASA that are in the ASDM mode, and the ASA needs to be configured individually just like a physical ASA. In this video, we will be installing a redundant pair of Cisco ASA 1000V in ASDM mode, and over the next few videos, we will configure the ASA via CLI. Here's our lab setup. We're going to have a primary and secondary ASA with the outside interface on a VLAN 128 and the management interface on VLAN 117. Now the ASA inside interface is going to be on the VLAN 6010 and the failover interface will be on VLAN 118. We also have a VNMC server at the IP of .32 on VLAN 32, and we're going to make the ASA known to the VNMC at the level of App 1. Before we start, we need to make sure all the relevant VLANs are created on the Nexus 1000V as well as the corresponding port profile. So let me jump onto the ASA 1000V and show what we have configured already. So if we do show VLAN brief, we have 117, which is the management, 118 for failover, and 128 for the outside. If you do show bridge domain, you will see we have a VLAN 6010 that we're going to be using for on the ASA inside interface. Let me do a quick show port profile just to show you how we have the port profile configured for these VLANs. So right here at the bottom we have 117, 118, and 128 configured as a access VLAN with the corresponding VLAN, and most of them are also made a system VLAN. And here we have a default VLAN 6010 that's also a switch port mode access. Now let's go ahead and begin our installation. So first you need to click on the file and then deploy OVF template, and I assume that you have downloaded the software package from Cisco.com, and here we're running ASA 871. You can just browse to the location of your .ova file, and then you click Next. Make sure you review and understand the disk size requirement, and click Next. We'll accept the license, and then click Next. First we have to give it a name. We will call our first primary ASA 1000V, Tenant 1, ASA 1, PRI. Click Next. Since this is going to be a primary ASA, we're going to choose Deploy ASA as primary. Then we choose your ESXi server that you would like to install the ASA. Now click Next. Then choose your data store. Next, we're going to leave it as a default of thick provision. Now we have to assign the appropriate VLAN to each of the ASA interface. Start off with the management network. And here we have VLAN 117 for that. For the inside, we're going to look for the VLAN. Here, 6010. For the outside network, we say it's going to be VLAN 128. And for the failover, we have a VLAN 118 for that. Okay, we'll click Next. And now we have to provide all the parameters to the installer, so you know which IP to use during the installation. First is the management IPs, and for us the management IP is 172.16.117.16 with the /24 subnet mask, and the gateway is a .1, and the standby is a .17. As far as the mode, we said that we need to make sure that we install with the correct mode. In the first half of this video series, we have been dealing with VNMC mode, and here we're going to use ASDM mode. Okay, we're still going to need to provide the VNMC IPs, which is 32.32. ASDM client IP, you can leave it at default. It just says it's just going to allow the management network to access. For failover, it's 192.168.0.1. Subnet mask is /24, and the standby IP for the HA is .2. You'll click Next. Power on after deployment. You'll click Finish. Okay, the deploying of the ASA is completed successfully. Now we're going to open the console although it looks like we misspelled tenant. We can just fix it real quick right here. Okay, so the boot up is complete, and now we are dropped into the command prompt. You can do a quick show run just to look around at what kind of configuration has been done for us. Here we have interface 00, which is the inside, 01 is the outside, 02 is the failover, and then the management 00 with the management IPs. If we do show run route, you can see we do have a route to the VNMC, and if you're trying to ping, you can see it's also pingable to VNMC. Now that we have the primary ASA 1000V up and running, we can proceed with the secondary installation. So I'm just going to go through pretty much the same process as we did with the primary. So I'm going to move through this quickly. With the name, it's tenant1 ASA1 SEC. Configuration, we choose deploy ASA as secondary. Select the ESXi host, data store, take provision, and then we'll select appropriate VLANs. Then here's outside network is 128, and high availability is 118. Next, since this is a secondary ASA, all you need to configure or let this ASA know is the HA active IPs or even standby IPs also. And also definitely make sure that you are choosing ASDM, otherwise when it comes up, it will detect the mate to be in incompatible mode, and it would not join or form the high availability. Okay, and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. And then the standby is 0.2, and the standby ASA will receive the configuration replication from the primary. Okay, but like I said, the most important thing here, they need to have a matching mode. Next, we'll power on after deployment and then click finish. Okay, while we're waiting for the secondary ASA to boot up, the next thing we need to do is to create a user on the VNMC. And this user is going to be used by the ASA to push up the config, unlike the VNMC mode where the configuration is performed on the VNMC and then it gets pushed down to the ASA. When you config the ASA in ASDM mode, the configuration is actually done on the ASA itself, and then the ASA needs to have a correct privilege on the VNMC to be able to push things like security profile and make it known to the VNMC. And to support that, we have to create an account on the VNMC. So let's go ahead and log into the VNMC. We'll go under administration, access control, and then locally authenticated user. And then right here, we click on create locally authenticated user. For login ID, I'm going to call it ASA_user. Password, we'll do complex Cisco123. And for the role, we need to make sure that we assign a sufficient privilege for the ASA to make changes on the VNMC. So we're going to choose admin for that. Then we'll click OK. So let's go back and let's see where we are with the secondary ASA booting up. So let's bring up the command line. Looks like it's still booting. Okay, so you can see right now the secondary just reported detected an active mate, and the config sync or replication just began, which should complete in a couple seconds here. There you go. So on the primary, really show failover. And it looks like it's still trying to detect each other's management IPs or interface. So it should turn normal and monitor in a second here. Okay, so that just happened, so we know we're in good shape right here. So this host is primary active and the other host is a secondary standby. And our management interface status is normal and monitored. Okay, next we're going to connect the ASA to the VNMC. So to do that, you configure VNMC policy agent. And here we have an option. If you remember back in the VNMC mode, we did not have the option of lock-in. But here for the ASDM mode, we need to configure login and using the account that we just created on the VNMC. So the username, we said it was ASA user with the password of complex Cisco123. Make sure there's no white space at the end. And then we do share secret. And this is a share secret that you configured or specified during the VNMC install. So just happen to use the same password here. And then on the registration host, we point that to the VNMC IP, which is 32.32. Okay, as soon as you enter, the ASA will go out and contact the VNMC. And then we also need to let the VNMC know, or the ASA needs to let the VNMC know where you want the edge firewall or the ASA to be associated to which organization level. For us is VNMC org, level is root, tenant 1, DC1, and F1. And this is just like how we show it right here in the diagram. Okay, enter. Now we can do show VNMC policy agent status. You can see the status currently working properly. And if you go onto the VNMC web interface and look at service registry and client, you can see our ASA came in and connected with operational state of registered with the IP of 117.16. And also if you go to the resource management and look under firewall, and then tenant 1, DC1, app 1, and under edge firewall you can see right here. And clear the description says created by ASDM for ASA 1000. Okay, so all of these are created when the ASA makes itself known to the VNMC. Alright, and the config state is apply and association state is associated. So from now on, all the configuration can be done on the ASA itself and not the VNMC. Just a couple things to note on this page right here. If you scroll down, you might see the inside-outside interface. But at the same time, if you go onto the ASA, those config that shows up on the VNMC doesn't get reflected on the ASA itself. So these config right here is not really relevant. So that wraps up our video on ASA 1000V installation in ASDM mode. In our next video, we're going to start configuring the ASA from the CLI. You can visit our website to view an extensive list of our lab videos and sign up to get access to additional lab contents. Thank you for watching LabMinutes.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video.